Hi there, I'm John from CNCKing.com, and today we'll make a custom polycarbonate stencil. When it comes to making custom stencils here in the shop, we can literally make them out of any material. By far the most popular material we use is actually polycarbonate. You can hear it, solid polycarbonate. Now the reason polycarbonate is a winner more often than not, one is that it's incredibly thin, so it's very easy to store. It can easily be rolled up without any memory in the material. So let's say this was done in acrylic. If you go like this, it instantly just shatters on you along the edge and everywhere else. It makes sharp shards everywhere. This stuff literally is bulletproof glass. I don't know if it would stop a bullet at this thickness, but this is what they use to make bulletproof glass. Now for a stencil, something to keep in mind always is you always want inner parts supported. So you can see here, there's little supports all the way around, even on things like A's and B's. And that's important because otherwise what happens is they fall out. Now again, the next material we use for a lot of custom stencils is actually stainless steel. The reason why you go with stainless steel over polycarbonate more often than not is because they're using a propane torch. Now if you're using fire on this stuff burns right up. But if you're using stainless steel, it's not affected by the flame whatsoever, no matter how hot of a flame you got, unless you end up going with plasma, and then it's a whole other ballgame. Now the other reason that stainless steel is nice is that when you have a lot of, let's say, paint and stuff over it, you can use a flame to burn all that stuff off. So there's a lot of different applications for it. We don't do too many stencils using mild steel, and the reason for that is because it's very prone to flash, rusting, and just over time it just rusts on you. Stainless steel is a lot more rust corrosive resistant, whilst mild steel really isn't. And polycarbonate, because it's a plastic, well, we don't have to worry about rust at all. Something you might want to consider before getting a stencil made is considering what you're putting it on. Now that's something that a lot of customers don't sort of think about ahead of time. It's something that's actually very important. In this case here, we're putting on a barrel head. They're branding their name onto it using spray paint, so everything's fine. That's relatively flat. But let's say you're branding something that has a bit of a curve to it. If you make a stencil out of stainless steel, which of course we can do out of any material, the problem with that is curving that is it's a lot of trouble. Now polycarbonate, it's really easy to bend, and that'd be a great application for something where you want something very thin. The other nice thing about polycarbonate is actually see through it. It's actually optically clear, so when you take the masking off both sides, it's completely transparent to the eye, so you can definitely see right through it. No problems at all. Now, something to keep in mind with stencils as well is that you do have to clean them. And with a stainless steel stencil, you can actually use a pressure washer, no problem at all. But with polycarbonate, you gotta be a bit more careful with it. We make stencils out of literally anything, so if you wanted a stencil made, for instance, just to use a few times, we can make it out of MDF, which is the same material we're cutting here for the shipping, or we can make it out of plywood. I've also made quite a lot of stencils out of just regular printer paper. So your application really depends, really dictates, I guess, what material you want to use for that stencil. Now for ultimate durability, nothing beats steel, but again, just keep in mind the application, how many times you actually use it. Is it worth the extra premium to make something in steel that you only use 10 times? So just something to consider when you're getting a custom stencil made. Also make sure all your graphics are nice and clean. You want vector images, black and white is perfect because you're cutting exactly the outlines that you want. Now something I do a lot of that I don't really document at all in the shop for my blog or videos or so forth is actually how I ship this stuff. Now this here can easily be rolled up and shipped, but I prefer to use my own shipping container systems. And this is one of them. So this is just 1/8 inch MDF. What I did is you have a flat piece and you have one that's round right over it. The nice thing about this is because I made it, it fits perfectly in here. And then what I do with the inside part is actually I keep the round part and I put it in here. Now this is definitely a more expensive way to ship stuff, but how is this ever going to get damaged in any possible way? The other nice thing is the customer receives it. All they do is lift off the top and they got their stencil. And if they ever put it in storage or other kind of things, because they're not going to use the stencil 24/7, they already have basically the shipping, the way to hold the stencil, at their job site or what have you here, that's protected. Now polycarbonate is a very strong material, So you might say, well, who cares about the protection of it? To me, I like to have stuff nice and clean. And the other thing you'll see here on the stencil, by the way, is that the aesthetics of the stencil, not the design, the actual aesthetics of the laser burning and laser cutting look pretty awful. And the reason for that is this is on purpose, because what I did is I left a little layer of masking on both sides. Now if I want to have a really nice picture, I take the masking off, and all of this burning stuff that you see here is gone. Now for the customer, they maybe don't notice or care, but for me I care, because what that means is they can spray paint, use this for spray paint for a ton of work over the years or how have you. And then after a while, the spray paint sort of gets crudted all over it and sort of dries out and so forth. The nice thing I did is, because there's masking on both sides, all they have to do is take the masking off, one side or both sides, doesn't really matter, and they literally have a brand new stencil with no paint on it at all. Because polycarbonate is not something you want to clean too often. You can't use high pressure water or those kind of systems, and most chemicals aren't really nice to polycarbonate. So that's a great way to get a lot of extended use out of your stencil. And although initially it looks like crap, it's still okay. So if you're looking for custom stencils, contact me at CNCKing.com. We'll make it for you and ship it right to your door.